Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Mama Khairuni Fidos bin Abu Bakar, number matric 13 DAD 20 F1004, and my partner Muhammad Fakri bin Abdul Rahman, number matric 13 DAD 20 F1053. Today we want to present about class system. Okay, first, function of the system. To engage and disengage the flow of the engine power to the transmission smoothly. To make gear changing easy. To engage gear in neutral. To enable engine to rev without changing to neutral gear. Component of the system. First, class for connect its function, connect the slave cylinder to class release bearing, commonly called the throw out bearing. Second, release bearing is connected to the end of the fork inside the transmission bell housing and rests on the transmission input shaft and the class unit. Class pedal. The pedal connector and actuated the class master cylinder. Pilot bearing. The pilot bearing or bushing is pressed into the end of the crankshaft to support the end of the transmission input shaft. Clutch unit. When a clutch kit is purchased, it contains two pieces, a pressure plate and a clutch disc. The pieces are then bolted to the flywheel. Clutch disc, pressure plate, and flywheel. Clutch disc. The clutch disc, also called friction lining, consists of a splinted hub and a round metal plate covered with friction material. The disc is free to slide back and forth on the shaft. Damping spring absorb some of the vibration and shock produced by clutch engagement. When the clutch is engaged, the pressure plate jams the steering disc against the spinning flywheel. The torsion springs compress and soften as the disc begins to turn with the flywheel. Second, pressing spring. A flat metal spring located under the friction liner of the disc. The spring have a slight wave or curve, allowing the lining to flex inward slightly during internal engagement. This also allows for smooth engagement. Friction material. It's made of heat-resistant asbestos, carbon fibers, and copper wires woven or molded together. Grooves are cut into the friction material to aid cooling and release of the clutch disc. Levers are used to bond the friction material to both sides of the metal of the disc. Clutch pressure. Diaphragm pressure plate uses a single diaphragm spring instead of coil spring. This type of pressure plate functions similar to that of the coil spring type. Flywheel. The flywheel is the mounting surface for the clutch.
The construction of clutch system like this. Clutch operation. They have two clutch operation. First, clutch disengage. When the driver presses the clutch pedal, the clutch release mechanism pulls or pushes on the clutch release lever or fork. The fork moves the release bearing into the center of the pressure plate, causing the pressure plate to pull away from the clutch disc, releasing the disc from the flywheel. The engine crankshaft can then turn without turning the clutch disc and transmission's input shaft. Second, clutch engage. When the driver releases the clutch pedal, spring pressure inside the pressure plates pushes forward on the clutch disc. This action locks the flywheel, the clutch disc, and the pressure plate and the transmission input shaft together. The engine again rotates the transmission input shaft, the transmission gears, and the drivetrain and the wheels on the vehicle.